What's happening, Culinary Crusaders? Big Pitmaster Shane D here, back again with this week's 5 things. We're going to do this one a little different, so you may not need all your pen and paper to write down all the things I say that offends everyone out there, but you still want to go grab that coffee, you still want to grab a donut or whatever makes you happy, and come on back here because we're going to be talking about the 5 things I really enjoyed about the Southern Thunder BBQ School this weekend. Just got back last night. It was a great time, and I wanted to bring it straight to you while it was still fresh on my mind about the 5 things I really liked about it and why you should really consider signing up. Go grab those things, come on back here, and we're going to get started. Okay, so you got your coffee, and well, you can see on my face I'm still tired. It was a long weekend. I was really impressed with the Southern Thunder BBQ School. I was invited down to come check it out. And full disclosure before we get started, I am the pitmaster for Gorilla Grills. I was invited down because Gorilla Grills has given some gear to the school to support it. None of that really has any bearing on what I'm about to say here today, but I just wanted to put it out there that, yes, I'm affiliated with a company that is also sponsoring this class in a small way, very small way right now. But I just wanted to clarify all that, make sure we're all on the same page, and you're not like, oh, he's just drinking the Kool-Aid and towing the company line. It's not happening. In fact, you'll see that as we go through when I talk more about the things I did like about what they're doing in this class. You'll figure out that my impression of the class has little to do with Gorilla Grill's involvement. I'm glad we're involved. So glad. It's a fantastic class. So good job with Gorilla. Great partnership. But yeah, just has nothing to do with it. So let's get started. So first of all, where do you find this class? Well, it's in Marietta, Georgia. Southern Thunder BBQ class in Q University was started by Rick, Dave, and Pete. Three buddies who just thought, man, there's a better way to do these classes. And I agree, and I think they found it. First and foremost, this is not a competition class. If you're looking to get a lot better at competition, don't go to this class. But every class out there, short of the, pay $50 and show up and I'll teach you how to cook a steak for an hour classes, are competition focused. This is the first time I've seen a very comprehensive class aimed at the intermediate to beginner. And I didn't know what to expect going in there. I really didn't think they would do a very good job of this, quite frankly, because no one else has. And I was pleasantly surprised. So let's start. That number one, it's not competition focused, okay? If you're looking to go there and learn how to build better boxes, up your presentation score, master your chicken that's giving you trouble in the competition trail, it's not really a class for that. They will teach you how to cook all that, and there's competition points in there about how to prep competition chicken, how they cook competition chicken, but it's not competition focused at all. They're not talking about a range of boxes. They're not talking about exact timelines to meet KCBS. They don't care about any of that, and I love that. What they are focused on, however, is making you a better cook. And most classes you go to, they focus only on a handful of things that I've seen. It's like a steak kind of class, like a grilling class, or it's a KCBS kind of class, meaning you're going to learn competition chicken, ribs, pulled pork, and brisket only. What these guys do different is that you get all of that. They didn't do steak, though. So you don't necessarily get steak, but you get all the 5 competition meats. You get pork loin, you get whole chicken. I did a small block on salmon. They're teaching you how to be a better cook and a better all around pitmaster, griller, etc. So I love that. It's not competition focused. I think there needs to be more of that out there. These classes are very expensive. You're paying a lot of money to learn very little. And don't get me wrong, you can learn one or two things that change everything you do in a competition, and then suddenly you start winning, right? So I'm not saying there's not value in those competition classes. In fact, I still highly recommend one of them, which is the Barbecue Live Cooking School, held by Malcolm Reed, his brother Waylon, and Mark Lambert. It's a great school because you get the benefit of three fantastic pitmasters, and you get their opinions, and sometimes they're a little different. And they're teaching you full KCBS, but they're also teaching you MBN, whole hog. I mean, it's a great class for the money. I still do recommend that one. It's one of the only ones I recommend because of the pitmasters there, and that they're doing more than here's my exact timeline, etc., etc., etc. So, number 2, it's super hands-on. I was really surprised by this. When you go to most competition classes, you have a guy doing a presentation, basically, and they're showing you how they trim, and you're taking notes, and it's up on the big screen, teleprompter, the kind of thing where you're watching them, you're watching the handwork, and you're taking notes, and, hey, you want to cut this out of here, etc., and this is exactly how I inject, and here's my exact injection recipe and my exact timeline. But you don't necessarily get to go do it until you get home, and sometimes that's too late. Now, don't get me wrong, the 30 people in this class didn't each get a brisket to trim, but everyone got a chance to trim on a brisket and touch that hard fat versus the softer fat. And they immediately enforced the why of the lesson with hands-on. They would go through a segment, everyone would then get up, go to the cooking tables, and trim chicken. They wanted, this is what it feels like to scrape chicken skin, to break down a whole chicken, trim a pork loin, etc., etc., etc. Everything they did was immediately backed up with, okay, now let's go touch it. Let's go do it. And anytime you can do that, and anytime you're willing to spend the time and money to do that as a class, it's a pretty good class. So that was immediately one of the things that stood out to me is how fast they went from, hey, grab your notebook and pen and paper and start taking notes, to, great, here's a knife. Go do this thing. I think that's huge. There's a lot of value in that, and they did a fantastic job of balancing, in my opinion, hands-on versus going and doing, and that muscle memory, right? Because I can go back and read the book. When you leave that class, you leave with a giant binder with everything in it. And by the way, it's 75 pages. Most competition classes, you're lucky if you walk out of there with 10 pages and a freaking Excel spreadsheet of a timeline, okay? I'd say that's pretty darn comprehensive. So you get to still come home with that, and then the memories of what you did and what it felt like when you scraped that chicken, or when you cut the backbone out of a chicken, or whatever it was, when I trimmed those ribs, when you broke down, spares into St. Louis cut. It's all in there in the book, but it's also reinforced by the feel immediately, and that makes that super valuable. Okay, number 3. Now, this one was big to me because I feel like a lot of pitmasters classes come from, how do I want to put this? In the military, we call it PFM, which is pure freaking magic. We'll call it folklore and happenstance, okay? So you'll ask them, why do you put this rub on at this time? Well, because when I did this at this contest 5 years ago, I got a 180 and I got a call, and it's worked for me ever since. Well, okay, I'm not arguing that it works for you. You're winning, and that's fantastic. But that doesn't really answer the science. That answers this is why I started doing it, but it doesn't answer the why. The number one thing I love that Pete did in that class was he was quick to dispel rumor and junk science and replace it with, I actually tested this. A great example, the pork loin that they brined in the class. And I won't give away too much of the class here. I won't, out of respect for them. You need to go sign up for class and take it. But they have a brining process, and he said, I tested this at this interval, as far as the times of the brine, and this interval, and this interval. And it wasn't until this point that I noticed the biggest change, and that's where I found it to be most valuable, and that's what we're teaching. Now, you can say, well, that's folklore and happenstance. It is, but it isn't. Because he actually went back and scientifically took notes about the change in every part of the process. They don't always recommend the most expensive or the most faddish thing at the time either. We had a long conversation about butcher paper versus foil. There's a lot of junk science about that, and a lot of people using paper right now because it's a fad. Paper works, but most people are now ordering it and using it because a very famous person started ordering it and using it. You see what I'm saying? They don't base their rubs and sauces or any of that stuff off some fad, you know. There's a lot of standards in KCBS classes that say you have to use this sauce, you have to use this rub because I use it and it works for my flavor profile and it works for my timeline. And that's all true, but they're not trying to create robots in this class. They're trying to create better cooks, and I appreciated that. So they're quick to dispel myth and rumor. And when they do, they're able to back it up with this resource. A lot of their recommendation was going to AmazingRibs.com. I can't dispute that. Meathead's another great guy who tests and kind of the myth busters of barbecue. So I appreciate that a whole lot, and a lot of classes don't do that. So the next one, they don't talk about timelines. I think I brought that up like 4 times already. My biggest complaint about most competition classes is if you go to, we'll make up a name, Billy Joe Robidoux's class in Louisiana. And Billy Joe's killing it in KCBS. He's a top KCBS cook in these 4 categories. Billy Joe's entire class is built on making you another Billy Joe. Okay? That's not a bad thing. But understand he's going to give you, this is exactly what I do. I do this, this, and this. I do it at this time. You got to do it at this time. Don't wait 15 more minutes. And he's going to give you a timeline on a spreadsheet that says every 5 minutes this is what I'm doing through my whole competition. Okay? Again, nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to be. But does that make you a better cook? Or does that make you another Billy Joe? You got to ask yourself those questions. What if you don't like that timeline? What if you don't like the products Billy Joe's using? Most people are going to come back and take the time to test and figure out a new process, okay? That's why you're paying sometimes almost $1,000 per seat to be there. But I don't necessarily want to become the next Billy Joe, okay? There's not, that's just my opinion. That doesn't make you a better pitmaster. It makes you a student of a process, not a master of a methodology of cooking. And while we talked about timelines in the class, there was no set, you got to cook at this temp, on this pit, at, blah, 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 blah. You got to sauce exactly this time. You got to do this. That stuff went out the window. It was more about, this is what we do. We cook to a color. We cook to a feel. There is not a lot of, at 165 you wrap, and then at 172 you bob and weave, and at 175 you sauce. There's not a lot of that at all. Now, everything they said was backed up again by science and the temperature, but it was first and foremost about the color and the texture, and then they associated that to a temperature. And I try to do that in the information I provide back to people when they ask me questions all the time, and it makes people mad. Well, just tell me exactly what temperature to wrap. Well, I don't think that's valuable. I think wrapping in a color is much more valuable, because I've had days, high humidity days, where that meat took on a lot of color, and I was ready to wrap at 160. I've had other days where, I don't know, the pellet I was using, the wood I was using, I don't know, maybe it's just the meat. Man, that meat never took color until about 175. That 15 degree difference is pretty large in something like a pork butt. Okay? So I agree with them. You wrap to a color, you wrap to a smell. You need to touch it, feel it, sense it, not just jab a dang probe in it, wait for it to come back and say, okay, now do next step. That's not a cook. That's an automated program, and I don't approve of that at all. I think until you've done this enough times, and our probes are valuable, and reinforcing what you're feeling with the time helps you get better, and then data logging that and writing that down and making mental corrections after you're cooked the next time help you, but they're not what you should be driven by. You know what I'm saying? Timelines are good, probes are great, but you need to use them to make you a better pitmaster, not a slave to a process. Just my opinion, okay? Last but not least, I really appreciate this because I see this in so many classes, okay? Because I cook on this pit and I use this product, you therefore must cook on this pit and use this product if you want to become me, right? We'll call it the Billy Joe effect. These guys do not sell out to a product. They appreciate the help and support, don't get me wrong, but they will use whatever product and prove that you can become a good pitmaster using, they had a reverse flow stick burner, they had a pit barrel cook, like a UDS, ugly drum smoker, they had a Kamado, they had 2 pellet grills, they had a WSM, a Weber Smoky Mountain, they had a vault style, I'll just call it Backwoods because that's kind of the Coke brand of that vault style vertical smoker. And they cooked on all of them. And I appreciate that. They took a product off every one of those, but never once said, you should buy this one, or this one. Now, when they answered the questions, when they were asked, well, I'm in this situation, what pit should I buy? They would use the information, that person's budget, and what they wanted to achieve as the basis for what they recommend, i.e., Grilla Grills as supported this class, but not every answer back in that class was you need to go buy a Grilla. You need to go buy a Primo. You need to go buy a Lang or whatever. It was situation dependent, and I appreciate that. And I would, as someone who works with a company, I really appreciate that because they're not just shoving this product down people's throats. They're ensuring they're getting the proper product in the person's hands who needs it the most, and that's a valuable customer. That's not a customer that's going to be upset at the company later, and I would much rather have that, okay? If someone comes in and they're all about, an ugly drum smoker, and they get talked into a pellet pit, and then they don't like it, it's not going to make for the best customer necessarily, okay? So I really appreciate that. They used some of Heath Ryle's sauces and rubs, which are fantastic. They also gave out a lot of recipes of their own sauces and rubs that you can make. They were also very good, matter of fact. They've got some Gorilla products they use in the class. But I have no doubt that, if another brand come in and said, hey, we're going to give you some stuff to support your class, that they wouldn't adapt that brand to what they're doing. And I love that. That's awesome. They're showing a lot of different brands, a lot of different ways to achieve the proper results as a pitmaster, and that's really cool. I just can't say enough about how the class ran. The core philosophy of the class is so close to what mine is that I feel like I wrote part of that book, and I immediately felt a part of the class. When they were asking questions, they would kick stuff back to me occasionally and be like, well, what's your take on that? What's your opinion? And more times than not, it was very close to theirs. In fact, the only thing I think I differed on was I just like dry brining a little more than they do. It's because I'm lazy. I don't always want to mix up a wet brine and wait that long. But that's it. I mean, we're talking about a very, very fractional difference. I just can't say it enough. Rick, Dave, Pete, you're doing a freaking fantastic job, and you deserve some recognition for that. Their class is not the cheapest class. It's not. But it is arguably the most comprehensive and in-depth 12 hours I've seen in all of barbecue. And I'll go on record as saying that. There's these, I call them corporate classes. They're sponsored by a company. You show up at the Ace Hardware or whatever it is, the local distributor, and you sit through a class. And those are pretty good classes, and they're cheaper typically. But you're in this money-making machine. You're in this hamster wheel. You show up this time, we're going to do these 5 things, we're going to show you some things, and get out of here. The next class is coming in 4 hours, or 2 hours, so we got to reset. That wasn't how this went down at all. You get there early, you better be ready to go. Because the first 4 hours of that class are just bang, packed full of info. You better show up ready, okay? The second half of the day, by design, is a little slower. They're able to show you a little more stuff, take a breath. You're still hands-on. You're still getting great info, but they understand they cram so much in that class. And the best part about that class is after the students have all prepped that meat, at the end of the day, there's a big meal where they're going to eat everything that they've cooked. And that is really cool, because anytime you can reinforce what I've taught you or what I've told you with touching it and then eating it, those people are going to walk away with at least in their mind now what that brisket should taste like, what that pork rib should bite like, all that stuff. And it's huge. It's really good. Again, not the cheapest out there, but if you're looking for what I recommend as arguably the best class in all of barbecue for the beginner to intermediate person, I can't say enough about Q University and Southern Thunder BBQ. They crushed it. I was really pleased with the number of women in this class. I think women get turned off to barbecue a lot for 2 reasons. It's expensive gear. It's dirty. Actually, not like double entendre dirty. But I do think that's another reason why in classes they get a little put off. But physically, it's dirty work, right? I'm not saying all women are that way, but it's just not something most women want to do. And then the other reason is the double entendre, right? There's only so many jokes you can take in a given class day about probing your meat or injecting your butt, or it goes on forever, rubbing your butt or whatever. And it just gets tiresome for them. And it gets tiresome for me. And I am the snarkiest, most double entendre guy out there. But even for me, it gets tiresome. And these guys do a real good job of handling that. I think there's like 5 or 6 women in this class. And in a class of 30, that's a pretty high average, which, good job, guys. That tells you you're doing something that's accessible to everyone, that everyone appreciates, and no one's intimidated by. And that's impressive. That's really impressive. So, again, that's my take. That's my 5 things this week. I know it's a little different than normal. Q University put on by Southern Thunder. I will throw this out there. I am now a QHD. I'm going to frame this and put it on my wall. These guys gave it to me. I now have a QHD in barbecue arts. I love that. I will cherish that. Money and trophies and all that stuff fade, but little nods like that by the guys are really cool. They've meant a lot to me. So, where do you find all their info? It's all in the links down below. Take you right to their class. They sell out every month. They try to do 10 of these classes a year roughly. So don't wait. Sign up. Take the trip. They have people from California. They have people from the Northeast. They've had people from other countries come to this class. It's a good class, y'all. So that's my plug for it. I drank the Kool-Aid. I like it a lot, as I always say. I know this 5 things a little different. We'll get back to being snarky next week, but this wasn't the time or place for it. So, as always, I'm Pitmaster Shane D. Where do you find me? Facebook, Twitter, all the social media at ShaneDBBQ.com. If you need to email me, you can always email me at Shane@DrapersBBQ.com. All right, guys, that's it for this week, and we'll do another 5 things next week. Got some stuff I got to do. I'm going to be on the road for a little bit, so you may see me in a different backdrop in a lot of hotels for the next several weeks, but it's okay. It's what we do. It's how we roll. It's how we... Wait, got to plug the Jocko Willink podcast. If you don't listen to the Jocko podcast and you're a military member, you totally should. Even if you're not a military member, You totally should, and get out there and get after it. That's it, guys. Catch you next week.